Welcome back. We are here for another episode of Under Contract. You guys, as always, honor those commitments you make to yourself. Honor the contracts you make to yourself, whether it's in, business, personal, financial, life, all of the above. Today, guys, I've been on this streak where I have been catering to the men out there. And this applies to just everyone in general. However, if you're a sports fan and if you're an NFL fan, if you just love football, whether it's collegiate or the National Football League, I've got a guest on today that his story will resonate with all of you, male and female alike, because the bottom line is it's about adversity, it's about overcoming challenges, it's about perseverance, it's about loss, and ultimately triumphing and being obedient and having faith and staying true to yourself. I've got a gentleman on the pod today, went to Oklahoma State. Once he graduated, was shortly thereafter drafted by the Carolina Panthers, went on to play for, I believe, 4 or 5 different NFL franchises, and has since gone on a streak of, I'm going to say this, either auditioning over and over again for a team, and has yet to be placed. And the key word is yet, because God's hand is in all of this. And we're going to have him tell a story today. And you guys, you're going to want to tune in on this one for multiple reasons, because it's a true lesson of just keeping your head down, not feeding into the distractions, and just really focusing in on what God wants you to do. Because as we all know, it's in God's timing, and God will arrive at the 11th hour, 59-minute mark. So today we have Matt Ammendola. Did I pronounce it correctly?
You did.
Lovely. Well, we're going to go into a little bit of a diatribe of stuff. But you guys, before I forget, he does have a clothing line out. We're going to talk about that. And it's the last 4 initials of his name, Dola. We're going to dive into that as well. Matt, welcome. Thank you for coming on. I know you're busy. Let's talk.
Tammy, I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah. So I did a little research, obviously, before you came on today. And let's just start from the fact that you're from the East Coast, right? New Jersey? Philadelphia. Oh, Philly. We like Philly. You're from the East Coast, and you pretty much have charted upon what every little boy dreams of being, a professional athlete.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you always know that's what you wanted to do? Because I feel like in sports, or anything for that matter, we are groomed for it. Like, you grow up watching it, you grow up thinking, can I do that? And lo and behold, you did, and you are. So walk us through that. You started off as a child, you always knew, or you didn't know. How did that all happen?
Yeah, I mean, my parents put me in sports when I was a kid. I knew quickly, I fell in love with it, just like the idea of camaraderie and, making friends on, all the teams, baseball, football, soccer, you name it, I probably played it. But, as the older you get, you realize you got to pick one. And I thought, soccer was going to be the sport. I thought it was my best sport. But when I got to high school, one of the coaches asked if I would be interested in kicking football, knowing I did it growing up when I was a kid. And I just decided, why not try out for the team? I could do this. It was tough. Obviously, it was in the same season, being on the East Coast, football and soccer. But I went out there, I kind of solidified the job, and that first year, just made some pretty big time kicks, I would say. And, a lot of my coaches, friends, even family members mentioned that it's something I could do in college potentially. And I was so just, I guess, blinded at the moment as far as just thinking about where I'm going to go for college, and thinking about, more or less, not so much about my career in sports, but, what I want to do, after college. So I was always into health, photography, and I didn't know at the time, what my decision was going to be. And sure enough, like after my junior year, I started having bigger schools interested in me as far as, hey, we would love to have you on our team. We don't have a scholarship for you, but we'd love for you to come in. You could probably get some academic money. School is always a really important thing to me as well as my brother. And, I obviously had the dream growing up when I was a kid, back to what you were saying, as far as, it would be great to play in the NFL, in the MLS, whatever it may be. but obviously it's a very, far-fetched thing. But at the end of the day, like, I'm a firm believer, if you really want something bad enough, you can achieve it, you can do it. It's just about, like, we talk about mindset and being able just to set yourself apart from everybody else. And when I was coming out my senior year, I had a few options as far as like walk-on spots, but I took a visit that year to Oklahoma State, and they just seemed to really want me. And to be completely transparent with you, I know my dad, he just wanted me to be happy at the end of the day, but I know he wanted me to be obviously a little bit closer to home, just because, my parents want to come watch me. They're, my mom and dad are my biggest supporters. But I made the decision to go out there, realizing I would mature me obviously a lot faster going to a school that was 21 hours away from home. And, quickly enough, just tried to make, a name for myself. And that first year, it was tough. I didn't really realize what was going to come about it and, what was going to happen. And my 3 roommates I was with at the time, we were all, they're called preferred walk-ons. So we all have like somewhat of an academic scholarship that could potentially turn into, something bigger. And, that was always the goal, always the dream. Being able to just like, have a scholarship where I didn't have to worry about being in debt down the road, having my family just, they've done so much for me. So being able to almost like give back to them was everything. And that first year, we always deal with a little bit of adversity, but all my roommates quit. And it was one of those things where you never knew what was going to happen, if I was going to stay. And I remember talking to my mom about if it would be important, should I stay? Should I go to a smaller school? Because I didn't play that first year. They redshirted me. And at the time, I was too young to realize that developing as a young athlete was more important than getting on the field. And that first year, all 3 of my roommates quit. And I decided in that moment, I think that was kind of like the pivotal moment where I realized that I want this. I want to pursue, football, and, I want to earn a scholarship, not just for me, but for my family, for my teammates, those guys I played with. And, I feel like that's kind of how the fire got started. But to make it in a nutshell, I've always been interested in sports.
So you were that kid. Kid that said, okay, this is what I want to do. You watched it. You grew up watching it. I'm sure your family loved sports. It was probably a tradition in your home, like most families during this time of the year when college football starts, and then a few weeks the NFL kicks in. So I feel like everybody looks forward to this time of the year. So as a child, you grew up saying, hey, that's really something that was instilled in you pretty early on. And you had enough faith, you had enough courage, you had enough determination to go and do what you did and ultimately sign on with a really good college, Oklahoma State. They don't have a shabby program at all. So you go on and you sign on with Oklahoma State. Then you have your career per se, your collegiate career. What was it about your collegiate career that made you or solidified your desire to go pro?
I think, honestly, just meeting the guys that came out before me and seeing just the professionalism that they brought to the table and seeing them obviously make it to the NFL. Obviously it was a D1 program. We haven't had a whole lot of guys that have made it. But in the past, a kicker that came through there by the name of Dan Bailey, played for the Dallas Cowboys for, I believe, 8-9 years. And he was an Oklahoma State Cowboy. I got the chance to talk to him after my sophomore year, and he was, again, kind of said this something similar to me, was if you want something bad enough, you can achieve it. And I think that when I finally got that starting role, you work so hard for something, and God gives you the opportunity to just go out there and to just showcase not only your ability, but his glory and, what he's provided for you. And I always just say, just whatever happens, you just lay it all on the line. And I think that in the moment going through like my collegiate career, a lot of ups and downs, but I think that the biggest thing was realizing that, I can do this. Like I've gone through, a lot of turmoil to be the person I am today.
Yeah.
And not only as an athlete, but just, as a man, who obviously believes in God and, going to church every Sunday in college, and just realizing that, what, there's more to life than football. And also just being able to just have that opportunity to, like we're talking about today, just to give my story and to show people that, it's important, obviously, to me, as far as the football. But at the end of the day, it's not everything.
No, it's not. And, you said something pretty poignant, because it's so easy in life, period, to make something an idol, right? And then you take it one step further and you throw professional sports into it, where, perceived perceptions, if you will, are, these athletes make a lot of money. They've got this lifestyle. They've got this. They've got that. And that can all take the place of your relationship with God so easily and so quickly, that it doesn't seem that happened with you, right? If anything, it sustained you. It has sustained your journey to where you are today, because it was not without adversity, right? Where you've arrived today. So you get to the collegiate level, you start realizing the eye on the prize is the NFL.
Yeah.
And at that point, walk us through, the emotions you were going through. Did you lean into your faith at that point? What sort of adversity presented itself prior to that? What sort of discipline did you have to exude that you now continue to exude even more so to get to that level to sign with, ultimately, at least initially, the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah. I would say, a big thing going into college was just always having a chip on my shoulder. I went in there as a preferred walk-on. I didn't have a scholarship. Most guys, that go to college and are on scholarship, it's very political, and aside from that, it's just, there's a lot more opportunity for guys that come in on scholarship versus guys that are walk-ons. So I think that was like the big thing going in, just realizing I want to play for a big school. I know I have the ability to do it. It's just, trying to just, all I had to do is just show one person that, and obviously that person's God. And I know that, when he put my foot, or when he got me in the door, and it was, obviously my opportunity to go out there and just to prove to people that I can do this. And I think that was something that resonated with me, was literally the older I got, my mom used to come in with these little quotes. She would text me and she would send me these like little rocks that had different inspirational quotes on it that really just, I mean, again, something so minimal, but
significant.
Yeah. And the more I would like see these, the more I guess it would resonate with me, and realize that, okay, like I'm here for a reason.
Yeah.
God put me here, and let's go have fun now.
Yeah.
But I think that, the older I got in college, and being able to, compete against guys that were on scholarship and to beat them out, and just, I guess it just made me realize that I belong here, that I can play at this level. And then, the older I got, they had these collegiate camps where guys would go out, just showcase their abilities, and, going out there, being one of the top guys. And it's just, I guess, like I said, the older I got, the more in touch with my body, and the more in touch I was with my faith, that I'm going to go out there. And I don't know, just the confidence I had from high school to college, it was a huge transition, huge jump. And I honestly, that's probably my biggest thing, was going to church more, and seeing that I'll even give him a shout out. One of my best friends, his name's Adrian. He introduced me to the church when I first got to Oklahoma. I didn't know anyone in college. He was one of the first friends I had. And he said, just come with me. There's a lot of people here that you'll not only become friends with, but
family.
People. Yeah, exactly. And I think when I first went to church, I've never been to like a Christian, like a non-denominational church. I grew up Catholic, but I just needed somewhere where I could go and, find my faith and
belong.
Yeah. And he showed me that. And sure enough, like every time I would go to church, I walked out not only feeling like more confident about myself and who I am, but just like one step closer to God.
Well, God chooses us before we have chosen him, right? And just hearing your story and parts of it's a real broad and significant reminder that he's going to do what he wants to do in spite of what you feel like needs to be done. So you're sitting there in college, no scholarship. You have to truly earn your stripes. Yeah. You already had it in your mind that if God was with you, then who will be against you? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? So you had a lot of that already staring you in the face. And you still went out there and you conquered. You still went out there and you landed an NFL contract. And the one common denominator is your faith. And it grew and it grew and it grew. Let's talk a little bit about the discipline that is clearly obvious that you have and how that's translated over into, okay, you got the call, Carolina signed you, you're now in the big leagues. You're now playing for an NFL team. And walk us through what that was like. And I'm sure that your faith was tested even more then, but at the same time, your faith was even stronger. Yeah. So it was kind of this tug of war, I'm sure of it, because I go through it every day. And I'm not even at the level that you are. So talk to us a little bit about that discipline. Once you got the call, did you have this epiphany that, oh my gosh, my dreams are coming true? As a little boy, this is what I wanted. Now I'm doing it. Did you have any sort of thought, Matt, that you were invincible?
In the moment, I definitely did.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you feel like everything's finally coming true. Everything is coming to fruition. And, obviously I had to wait a whole year just to train during COVID to get that opportunity and to go out there and just compete. Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize though, when I got to Carolina, I was only there for a few months until, getting waived, or the terminology is cut, and, being released and not knowing why. Mm. And, I remember even just in that 2-month span, we're getting signed, my first contract, and my agent calling me when I was out here in San Diego training to tell me, hey, the Carolina Panthers want you. You're going to get an opportunity to compete for the starting job. And I remember just being in tears, calling my parents, and I go out, sign my first NFL contract. And I remember just the amount of people that were just congratulating me, people who in my past, told me I was never going to make it, even at the college level. So it's obviously a very interesting limelight when people come to you who don't necessarily believe in you, but then resonate with your story and see that, wow, like he's really done away with everything he's wanted to do, and just wanted to run with that almost that ball and just see what happened. Yeah. And sure enough, like in the moment, going from obviously Carolina, being there and just having fun and seeing that, wow, like I'm finally here. I finally made
arrived.
It. Yeah. It was it was almost like surreal. I didn't think it was gonna be like what it was. And at the end of the day, though, something that I guess really came to me was a bunch of my teammates at the time. I would always put pressure on myself, added pressure, just because, we're always going to be our biggest critics. And one of my teammates in Carolina came to me and he said, Matt, like, this is a kid's game for a king's ransom.
Ooh,
and I remember,
this is a kid's game for a king's ransom? Wow.
Yeah. And that just like hit me. And he's like, it's always going to be the same game.
Wow.
You don't need to put added pressure on yourself.
Wow.
And I remember just every time I get picked up by a new team, I try to tell myself that, because at the end of the day, it's just a game.
And, that can be applied to life.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure a lot of that kind of spills over to other things that you're doing. Mm-hmm. So after you were we're going to put it in their words, cut.
Yeah.
What happened after that?
So I went back, started training again. People don't really get to see what goes on behind the curtain. And, I told myself, you know what, like maybe this wasn't, my plan. I know God has something bigger for me. And a few months later, I was out training in Long Island, New York with my coach. We kicked 3 days in a row, which is something unheard of. I don't normally do that. And that fourth morning, I get a phone call from the New York Jets saying, hey, we want you to come in. Is there any way you could fly or, could you drive to us?
Yeah.
So I drive from Long Island that night.
How long is that drive?
It's about 2.5 hours.
I'm sure your thoughts were just racing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Praying, racing, all of the above, yeah.
And that was, the next day was officially like my first NFL workout where I got to go out there and compete against other guys like myself for just an opportunity. And it's funny because the kicking community is so small. So, and the way it works is, you get there, usually they hold you there for the night. The next day you get all picked up in the same van. And it's usually guys.
So not glamorous.
Usually guys that you've seen before, familiar faces, friends. But most of the kicking community, we're always going to, help each other out. Yeah. We're always going to support one another. And when we go out there, obviously, it's the best man. Whoever makes the most kicks is usually the guy they take. And I was fortunate enough to go out there and had a great day and ended up getting signed. But again, that same sort of feeling invincible, thinking, okay, now I'm really going to get an opportunity to really compete.
Right.
And at the same time, it still went through my head. All right, this is just a kid's game for a king's ransom. Like I just go out there, just obviously do what you got to do. And, just like I say, lay it all on the line and whatever happens, happens.
So how long were you with the Jets?
I was with them a full year.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then what happens from there? Because I think you signed on with 4 or 5 additional friends? Okay.
5 teams total.
Okay. 5.
So I signed with the Jets, went pretty much all year. I had a minor injury at the end of the year, didn't play the last few games of the season, re-signed with them in the off season, and I get a call one day, and they said, "Hey Matt, we don't mean to be, bad news bears, but we're just looking to sign a guy who has more experience. The NFL is all about experience, as far as like the more games you've played, typically teams like that because it obviously proves, your worth to some extent." And even though I had a decent year that first year, they signed a veteran, and they said, "Hey, he's going to be taking your spot. You're going to be waived, quote unquote, again."
Wow.
And I remember I'm just like, I was so in shock. I'm like, well, why is this? And but to follow that point, a few weeks later, I get a call from the Houston Texans. And I go in there for almost like a camp, and they have this thing called rookie mini camp where guys are able to be signed just for that day or that weekend, depending on how long camp is. And you go in there, obviously, same thing. You're tested as far as they give you a bunch of different opportunities as far as for me, field goal, kickoff, that kind of stuff, and. Same thing. You're with other kickers. Now, this isn't so much about like we're going to sign you in the moment because this is off season, but
so psychological.
Yeah, but it's just a way for them to kind of evaluate you and show.
They're dating you.
Yeah,
they're courting you.
Yeah, and so I go out, do great. I think I went perfect. It was like 14 for 14, and I remember after they said, "Hey, thanks for coming in. We're going to book you on a flight later that evening." So I flew in the night before and then flew out the next night. And I'm thinking to myself, I call my agent. I'm like, I just had my best workout. What's the reason for this? He's like, they just wanted to take a look at you, see if you're healthy, see how see how the ball's coming off your foot. And, next thing you know, the phone just doesn't ring for the next few months. And finally, we're in this time 2 years ago, and the Houston Texans call again, and they say, "Hey,
Just kidding."
hey, it's a Tuesday night. We want to get you out here tomorrow. We want to sign you for the last preseason."
2 years later.
2 years later.
Okay.
This is in 2022, the last preseason game. I get a call on Tuesday night. They want to sign me for a Thursday night game.
Oh my goodness.
So, I've never worked with their guys. It's all about, just operation, and you have a snapper and a holder, someone who over time you build a relationship with. And I didn't know these guys at the time. And I remember coming in that Wednesday and they said, "Hey, you're going to be playing tomorrow." And the coach, Frank Ross, just a huge advocate of him for just obviously giving me the opportunity. And went out there. I hit a 45, 46-yard field goal and, made my extra points. And it was a good day. And then the next day I got released. Their kicker at the time, he had an injury. So they needed someone just to fill that spot for just that week. And then, so now 2 weeks later,
Oh my God.
the NFL season starts. And, week one, you don't typically see kickers go down, but that was a weird year. After week one, similar situation happened where, it's Monday Night Football, and I can't remember who they were playing, but the Chiefs were playing, and their kicker gets hurt. And I remember getting a call at like 11:30 at night. My agent says, "Hey, we have to get on a plane tomorrow at 6:00 in the morning. The Kansas City Chiefs they want to work you out." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is great! Like, what's going on?" Their kicker got hurt. So I go in there. I compete against 6 phenomenal kickers, and currently there's 3 of them that are in the NFL who are playing for other teams now. But I went into that workout, probably the toughest workout I've been to, won the job, and suddenly I'm like, wow, this is great. Tuesday night, I have a few days to get prepared, and come to find out, I'm playing 2 days later on Thursday Night Football. It was the first Thursday Night Football when it first started. And in that moment, I'm playing in Arrowhead Stadium, which is considered the loudest stadium in the country.
And the excitement must be just on your nerves because you're trying. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's crazy how things kind of happen. And, but again, just trying to just run with every opportunity I get. And I went out there that first week and ended up hitting kind of like a game winner. So there was like a minute left, and they're playing their rivals, the Chargers.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Back then they were San Diego. They weren't Los Angeles.
They were. A lot of people were fans of them here, but I don't know about it anymore.
Yeah, no. That allegiance has gone by the wayside.
Yeah, but so I was.
We're fair-weathered fans.
Yeah. But I was with them. I hit that kick, and then I was with the team for another week. Get released, and then week 6 and 7 of the season, I get picked up by the Cardinals.
Okay, hold on. So how many teams is this in a matter of how many months, weeks?
So in 1 year, the 2022 season, preseason, I was with the Houston Texans, and I go to Kansas City.
2.
And then from there, I go to Arizona, the Cardinals, and then week 17 and 18, I was with the Green Bay Packers. So 4 teams.
So, wow. Okay. So this is such a mind game. It's just a game.
Mm-hmm.
How did you and how are you able to stay mentally strong and mentally tough? Because that takes a lot of discipline, a lot of mental stability, a lot of support system around you. Because it would be very easy, as we all hear time and time again, athletes just spiraling, right? And going a different direction because their career is over or perceived over or whatever the situation might be. And it's so, it saddens me to know that it happens, but you're only as good as your last game, right? Yeah. And life is so much more than that. You are worth so much more than that. You are more than just this football thing that God has blessed you with.
Yeah.
How did you and how are you? Because now that we fast forward and you've gone through all of these team hopping, if you will,
Yeah.
and you had to have these conversations with yourself that it's going to be okay. God's got me.
Yeah.
How were you able to do that?
I think just in the moment, going from team to team, I realize how hard I've worked for the opportunity, and when it does come to that moment where I am on a team, it's just, like you go back to just feeling invincible. Even if obviously, even if I'm not, even if it doesn't go well, it still feels like, wow, like I've earned this role, and it's just one of those things where I try to tell my parents, when I get out there on the field, it's like a feeling like no other.
Oh, it must be exhilarating.
And just, seeing the fans, just seeing people just chant for your team, your name. I can't really put into words how it feels, but it just kind of just makes me keep going.
So through all of that, and I'm sure there was a lot of lessons that you've learned along the way.
Absolutely.
It's you've arrived here now, and it's 2024, and a few years have gone by. I'm going to guess and assume that the routine that you're in now has intensified even more because your desire to do this is even greater. And it's almost like God is truly testing you, right? He's saying, okay, this is what I've chosen for you, but the timing isn't right.
Yeah.
Because if it were right, it's like God doesn't end on a negative. And if it's a negative, he's not done yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you are still in this place where you are practicing with teams. You're doing your workouts. You're living where, right? You're all
San
over,
Diego.
right?
Yeah.
San Diego, but you're
all over.
bouncing around right now with your routine, your workout, where are you drawing besides your faith?
Yeah.
Where are you drawing the stability? Where are you drawing the discipline? Where knowing you've had it, Matt, and it was in your hand, and that feeling that you experience when you're on the field, it's almost like you're not doing this to be seen. Because that's not what God wants.
No.
Everything is for his glory, not as our credit. You're not doing this to be seen. This is so you can see.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of things are being presented to you. So walk us through who you are right now and the journey as it is right now, the mental wherewithal that you have to go through, surrounding yourself with the right people, the right relationships, because everybody wants to be a part of something, right? Walk us through that.
Yeah. So I would just say, like, first off, my family, they're just, like I said earlier, they've been my biggest supporters. My friends, they always try to just tell me that you never know, like, when, like, timing, you never know when it's going to come. Yeah. God's timing is always a surprise. And one of the biggest things that my mom always tells me is, Godspeed. Like, you just, it's his time. It's not yours. And it's like the older I get, the more I'm starting to understand that it is his timing. But it's just something that I just want to keep going. It's almost, there's just like this serotonin, dopamine rush every time that even when I step on the field, if I'm just practicing and just if I'm by myself or if I'm with other guys, there's still that feeling of like, it's almost like therapeutic in a way. And I just don't want to stop. And I think it's one of those things where last year, when I got signed to the Houston Texans, prior to that, this was a huge moment for me. I was out training at the University of Pennsylvania, and I'm by myself. I'm doing everything I can do. I've been kicking great, practicing, sending film to teams, to my agent, and the phone just wasn't ringing. And I'm out there one day by myself in this stadium, and this janitor, never seen the guy before in my life. To this day, I feel like he was an angel.
Of course.
And he walks on the field, and he tells me, he's like, "Oh, what are you doing out here?" And I just told him, my story that, I'm just an NFL free agent, just trying to get back in the league, just itching for it. And he looks around the stadium and he's like, there's no one here, like you're dedicated, you're passionate about this. And if you want it bad enough, he's like, I know God is going to answer your prayers. And we sat there when I was just warming up, and he's like, can I pray for you?
Oh.
And I remember getting chills because I've never seen this man before. I've been going, 3 times a week, and I've never seen this man before. And he tried to tell me that, he's always there. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. You say that. So after that day, I remember, walking off the field, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to see this man again. But I remember, like, I just felt different when I walked off that field. And 2 weeks later, I got that phone call. So it's very, like, yeah, it's crazy how God works.
Well, I don't know. I'm just going to say this right now. Wherever you land, it's going to be a Super Bowl team.
Okay.
I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
Because the journey you've been on, like I said before we got on the camera, the blessing is in the obedience. And you've been so obedient that it's going to show up in a way that you're A, not expecting, B, not in your time, and C, it's going to be grander than anybody could ever imagine, because that's how God is. He just shows up and he shows off, period. But we have to trust him. So that moment happened. Fast forward, you're here now.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, because, it would be easy for you just to sit and wait.
Yeah.
But you're not.
Yeah.
Walk us through your workouts. I'm sure that, I've checked you out on social media. Your workouts are insane. Like, I'm sweating watching you and through a reel, right?
Yeah.
But your workouts are intense. They're insane. The discipline that you still exude, the desire that you still exude. You're even volunteering you're working with kids. There's so much that you're doing, Matt, that it can only end up the way that I feel like it's going to end up, that God will do it in only a way he can do it. So tell us a little bit about that. You're working with kids, your workouts, walk us through that, because your discipline it's not waning at all.
Yeah. And I would just say, like, first off, like, a lot of people think that, kicking is easy, and there's a lot more to it that a lot of people don't really get to see that goes on behind the curtain. But yeah, like with the workouts, they're very skewed to me. And it's also one of those things that's another therapy. I love going to the gym. I love walking out feeling like I got a workout in, that this is going to benefit me with football, or like just with my health overall.
Do you ever, and I know I do because I've had health issues too, but I wake up every day and I just go, God, thank you so much that you woke me up one more day, and that I can actually walk, that I can, when I'm doing this workout, that I'm actually moving this way. Like, do you feel that way?
Yeah. Every time I get to the gym, you just blessed to have arms, legs, like to have, like, your
lungs,
your heart,
to breathe,
your heart beating. But yeah, I just think it became a part of me going to the gym, and that was the other thing, is trying to separate myself as not just like an NFL kicker, being able to be a trainer, to be a coach, to be like an advocate for kids and individuals who are just going through it, or being able just to let them know that it's going to be okay. Yeah. Like, you're going to be able to get through this. I've had plenty of conversations with, kids I've trained, not just about football, but about life, about maybe a girl they were interested in, or, maybe they were just going through tough family times. But I try to just remind them that, in the moment it is tough, but you're going to get through it.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay.
And, it's interesting because, sometimes the greatest decisions we make don't make sense, right? Or the things that happen to us don't make sense. But if God is leading you in a direction, you need to lean into that. You need to lean into that nudging that he's doing, even if it doesn't make sense, right? Because his ways are way more mysterious than our ways. And I feel like through this journey, you have not only followed his lead.
Yeah.
But you're still peaceful and you're happy about it. There are so many Christians overseas that are being persecuted and they have such joy in their life. They have such peace about who they are. You are, in a sense, being persecuted.
Yeah.
And yet there's your disposition, your demeanor is so peaceful and so confident in who God created you to be.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what this person over here says, or if this magazine article says this, or that, and that team clip, or that whatever it was, whatever it says about you, that's not who you are.
Yeah.
God created you, and your identity is in Him. So that's why you can sit here with such peace about you and confidence about you, knowing that it's going to be okay. And as a result, you're taking that and you're teaching and you're mentoring kids and saying, hey, that sucks right now. Guess what? Sunday is coming.
Yeah.
3 days later, right? So tell us what you're doing now. What are you doing? What's Matt Ammendola now? What's going on with your clothing line? Tell us what DOLA stands for, because that is an acronym that we all need.
Yeah. So my clothing line, I just came out with about, I'd say it was roughly seven months ago, and it's been doing great. It's DOLA, so last 4 letters of my name, and it stands for Do It, Own It, Live It, Achieve It. And any way that
Do it.
Live it, achieve it.
I love that.
And my mom and I sat down, and the original thought was, I wanted to start a brand, start something that could help resonate with people.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe being, a fitness coach was the answer. And that's still something that I do, but I wanted something, I'm a very visual learner. So I wanted something that people could see. And we sat down and we're like, you know what, we should just make a clothing brand. And we
Men and women, right?
Men and women,
okay.
yeah, it's unisex. But I've only dropped 2 shirts so far, and it's something I want to really kind of dive more into as far as making more individual shirts for both men and women.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole brand is just to help resonate with individuals that are just going through it or are just not sure about themselves.
Yeah.
And any way that I could help just build confidence by maybe reading something. I've always been a reader as far as like motivational books, quotes. Like one of my favorite books is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And,
yes.
And just
Powerful.
listening to his story. And I try to just like tell people that it's going to be okay. And I always try to tell myself that, that, in the moment it might hurt, but I know like God's here for me and he's with me and time will pass, and
this too shall pass.
Yeah.
So you're really involved with the community. You've got your workouts. You're working out for teams. NFL season is here in 2 weeks. What do you think? What's going through your mind right now?
So, the way it works right now is you kind of have to just, they say, stay on standby. But with that being said, I'm not just going to be staying here and not doing anything. I'm really trying to pick up any roles I can to help out with like kids, but at the same time, looking out for myself that, you never know when you get that phone call. And I'm trying to train 3 to 4 times a week. As far as kicking goes, 2 easy days. Trying to just almost put myself in the mindset of being on a team right now and how the schedule goes. Usually it's 2 easy days, 1 heavy day, and then obviously a game day, and trying to just almost simulate that as if I'm on a team. Right. So then I know, like I said, the older I get, the more obviously experienced you are, and the more you realize, all right, maybe I don't need to kick 100 balls today.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to focus on, the mental side of things. Or, what I try to tell kids now is that every time you go out there, when you're ready to kick, every kick is like a game kick.
Yeah.
Every kick matters.
That's it.
And you realize that when you do that in situations, when you're just out there by yourself and you put more pressure on yourself, it actually helps you when you get out in the game, because it shows that, wow, like, I've done this 1,000 times. It's no different. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say that's probably the big thing I'm doing right now is just preparing for the next opportunity and staying ready, as well as just trying to be a good advocate for individuals, kids. And I want to start working with actually more adults too. Yeah. I think that we all struggle with something, and being able to just be in the fitness community now, working with a lot of different brands, I really feel like I could touch more people in that sense. And I think that's something I want to do in the future. Just being able to help people, that was always my thing during COVID.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, in my heart, I was like, I want the NFL. I don't know if it's going to happen, but at least I know I've tried,
Yeah.
and I'm going to keep going. And yeah.
There's something that stands out to me when you're saying that is, I think the minute we stop asking God for things,
Yeah.
and we stop asking him to bless us, because we're always going to him to ask for something. Yeah. And when we shift our prayers to God, thank you, right, for blessing me with these opportunities. Thank you, God, that the right team is going to call me. Thank you, God, that I will have placement permanently with the team. When we thank him in advance for things versus asking him for things, and when we put him first or put him more in place, that's when things start to really happen around us, because it takes the pressure off of us.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of what you've done. You've just said, okay, I'm going to still go out and be the best person, a person of excellence, because that's who God created me to be. In spite of what's going on around me, in spite of, yeah, sure, I'd love for this to happen over here. I'd love to be with the team right now, but it's not, and it's okay. Yeah. Because as long as I have you, God, that's all that matters, right? Absolutely. So I feel like that's kind of where you've arrived. So if there's a young guy out there watching this right now or listening or happens to hear about it, the fact that you had that missed kick and the missed opportunities, what advice would you give them having gone through that if they're presented with an opportunity like this?
I would say just, it sounds a little far-fetched, but I would just say you just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Like when that ball was another inch and that kick would have been in, it's one of those things where, I believe there's like a silver lining in everything. And it's one of those things that if you want it bad enough, in the moment, like I said, everyone goes through adversity. Yeah. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, you name it, athletes, celebrities. It's just one of those things where if you really are different, and like for them, they didn't care. Yeah. I like one of my biggest advocates I look up to is Kobe Bryant, and he would always, he'd be in the gym 4 or 5 hours before the game was even going, and he would just be getting his shots down, 1,000 shots before the game, just knowing that, all right, I'm ready. Yeah. And even if he didn't solidify that game-winning shot, he still looked at himself like, I did everything I could.
That's it.
And again, we're always gonna give glory to God first and foremost. Yeah. But I would say, to any kid out there, just never doubt yourself for all the work you've put in. Just be able to just show out. And whatever happens, like I say, lay it out there and just be able to just walk away from it and know that, you've done everything you could, and you're going to have another opportunity. Whether you don't see it in the moment, you're going to have another opportunity. So you just got to keep going.
So you've gone through a lot of loss, adversity. You've persevered time and time again. Yeah. You're close to triumphing. In fact, you've triumphed every time. What would you say to that person who's watching, who's going through loss, who, may have gone through something similar to what you've gone through, and you've had to persevere? What would you say to them, aside from the same thing that, keep going, it's going to get better?
Yeah, I'd say just have an open mind and know that, in the moment it's only temporary. Yeah. And that sometimes, it's God puts you in these situations for a reason. He knows you're strong enough to deal with it and to obviously overcome it. And when you do overcome it, there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and that you got to know that it's for a reason. Yeah. And it's a hard pill to swallow. But when you do, you may not see it in the moment, but it's there. And there's always going to be just this idea of, what you could have done. Yeah. But it doesn't matter because there's already something God's planning that's bigger.
Right, that you can't see. Yeah. And the one thing that I really admire about you, Matt, that is clearly obvious is you haven't allowed your ego to get in the way. Because when we get our ego involved, that's literally edging God out. Period.
Yeah, period.
And that's what ego stands for. So you've allowed to maintain this level of humility, and you've allowed yourself to take what many would look at and say, oh, he's done. And you're not. You just keep going because you're going to be who you are and you're going to do what God has asked you to do regardless of everything else. So for that, I commend you among many, many things. And I have faith that it's going to be a Super Bowl team because only God can do that.
Yeah.
That's going to call you, and it's going to be not permanent in the sense that forever, but it's going to be longer than what you have experienced. That's kind of where I'm going to go with this. Matt, thank you so much for sharing your story. I love hearing stories of perseverance and adversity because that's what life is all about. These stories that you're sharing with me can shed light on the fact that you don't see a lot of what goes on behind the scenes when you're a professional athlete, right?
Absolutely.
What we only see is the game-winning goal, right? What we only see is the third Super Bowl win. What we only see is, oh my gosh, he's having the best year of his life. What we fail to see, or at least fail to be included in, are the everyday things that you're doing as a human being just to get through minute to minute, hour by hour. We don't see those things.
No.
So as I've shared with you previously, not sharing would have been selfish. So I'm grateful that you took the time to be transparent, to be authentic, and to be you. Because it's not about you. It's about sharing your story and helping somebody that's on the other side that might be going through this exact thing right now. For all you know, it could be a former teammate. It could be a teammate of yours that doesn't even know you're going through what you're going through, and you don't even know what they're going through, and you're helping him.
Yeah.
So thank you. What a blessing to have you. I'm excited to see where this goes. You guys check him out on Instagram at...
just Matt Ammendola.
Yeah. And his clothing line is on your website. What is that website?
www.dola.fit.
Okay, dola.fit. And if you guys have any questions, reach out. So excited to have you. Thank you so much for sharing. As always, you guys, it's really, truly about staying true to yourself, honoring your commitments, and honoring that contract. And Matt has done that flawlessly. Stay tuned for him being on a Super Bowl team, you guys. That's all I'm saying. Peace out.
Thanks, Tammy.